Okay, so today we're going to get into something that I think a lot of people are curious about, but maybe don't talk about a whole lot.
Right.
And that is how to give a really good blowjob.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we are looking at this book called How to Give a Blowjob He'll Never Forget by Jenna Jenkins.
Very catchy title.
Yeah,
That should get some clicks.
exactly.
Yeah, and this is going to be fun
Yeah, I think so.
because it is something that I think there's a lot of curiosity about,
Uh-huh.
and we can learn a lot from Jenna Jenkins.
So our mission today is to kind of like go through the book
Okay.
and distill out the key points and techniques.
All right. Sounds
So you
good.
get kind of like the TLDR on this whole book.
Yeah, I like that. I think one of the things that's really interesting about going into this book is that Jenna Jenkins is very upfront about the fact that she's not a therapist or a doctor.
Right.
This is really just her sharing her experience
Yeah.
and what she's learned through her own experiences.
Yeah, she's like, "Hey, I like giving blowjobs and I'm really good at it and I want to help other people do it better too."
Exactly. And she's uh very matter of fact about it.
Yeah.
She uses very plain language.
Yeah.
I think, whether you're a complete novice or you've got some experience under your belt,
Yeah.
there's going to be something in here for you.
Yeah, and I also think that it's kind of refreshing to have like a sort of a peer
Yeah.
giving advice like this rather than somebody who, maybe has credentials but it doesn't really feel relatable.
Right. It's not, Dr. So-and-so. It's
Mhm.
it's Jenna.
Yeah,
So I think she does a good job of kind of making this feel accessible.
totally. So why don't we just jump right into it?
Yeah.
She starts out by addressing like some anxieties
Okay.
that women often have about oral sex.
Yeah.
One of the first things that she talks about is hygiene.
Yeah.
Um, and so like a lot of women,
Oh, yeah.
I think, have this idea that the penis is like inherently dirty. And so she kind of flips it around.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
she's like, well, is it really any dirtier than female genitalia?
Right.
So it's just like this perception thing.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, how do you deal with that?
Right.
And she
Yeah.
actually suggests, like, hey, take a shower together,
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah.
Not only does that kind of like, take care of any hygiene concerns, but it's also kind of like a fun,
It's like foreplay.
yeah, it's like foreplay built
Like-
in.
Exactly.
So yeah,
I like
I thought that was a really clever
Yeah.
way to kind of like address that right up front.
Absolutely. And then another anxiety that she talks about, which I think is super relatable,
Okay.
is like this idea of underperforming.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of women are just like, oh, I don't even know if I'm doing this right.
Am I good at that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so her reassurance there is basically like,
Yeah.
if you are willing to use your mouth, like
Right.
the fact that you're even there is going to be appreciated.
You're in the game.
That you've already won half the battle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, just relax,
Right.
and enjoy it.
It's the thought that counts.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that, and I like that she kind of frames it that way because it really takes the pressure off.
Yeah, totally.
Instead of like, there's this whole like performance anxiety.
Right.
And I think that can really like get in the way
For sure.
for a lot of women.
Yeah.
And then she brings up another really interesting point that I thought was worth highlighting, which is this idea
Okay.
that like performing oral sex is somehow subservient.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're kind of like just, bowing down to the man.
Right.
And she completely like reframes that.
Yeah.
And she says, if a man is experiencing that kind of pleasure, you are actually in a position of power.
Yeah.
You are in control.
Cool.
You are the one who's like, making him writhe and moan.
And so it's like, yeah, you're down there, but like you were in control
Yeah.
of this very powerful experience.
Yeah, like you're the one giving the pleasure.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, you're using your mouth, but you are the one who's like making him feel amazing.
Totally.
So I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about like confidence on this show. Like
yeah.
confidence is sexy.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to like reframe it in a way that like makes you feel confident
Right.
about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so having kind of like, addressed some of these initial hesitations,
Right.
she moves into like the practicalities
Okay.
of like getting started.
Yeah.
And she really emphasizes the importance of starting with an erection.
Right.
Like, you don't just want to like jump right in.
Yeah, you got to warm things up.
Yeah, you got to warm things up. Like,
Right.
make sure that you're beginning with a solid foundation.
It just makes sense. Yeah.
And she gives a lot of suggestions for like how to get him there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, she talks about like doing a private striptease, which is pretty straightforward.
You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly.
But then she also describes this technique that she calls grab and massage,
Okay.
which is basically like, approaching him with confidence,
Yeah.
making eye contact, and then like confidently grabbing his penis through his pants.
Through the pants.
Through the pants.
Okay.
And just like, massaging it until he starts to get hard.
I see.
And the emphasis here is really on like taking initiative
Gotcha.
and being uninhibited.
Right.
It's like you're not afraid to like, go for what you want.
Right.
And I think that can be really exciting for a lot of guys.
For sure.
Then she talks about what she calls the passionate stroke,
Okay.
which is kind of like a more sensual full body approach.
Okay.
So this involves like kissing and licking down his body.
Paying attention to areas like his neck and his chest.
Okay.
Really kind of like building that anticipation.
Right.
And then for a slightly different approach to like manual stimulation,
Okay.
she describes this thing called the crane game claw.
The crane game claw.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those like claw machines where you're
Right.
trying to like pick up the stuffed animal?
Yeah.
So basically you're using like a gently curved hand
Okay.
to like lightly stroke from the base to the tip.
I see.
And she suggests that like the varied contact from your fingertips
Oh, okay.
like can create a really unique sensation.
Interesting. Okay. So we've got the visual.
Yeah.
We've got the sort of like a sensual touch.
Uh-huh.
And then she also talks about the power of dirty talk.
Oh, yes.
Even in these initial stages.
Absolutely.
She's like, you don't even have to get super explicit,
Right.
but just like telling him in a low voice
Uh-huh.
what you intend to do can be really arousing.
Absolutely. And she even gives some like specific examples.
Yeah.
She's like, use words like dick and cock.
Right.
Suck and lick.
Yeah.
Like be direct.
Right.
Don't be afraid to use that kind of language.
Yeah.
And she suggests that like, for a lot of guys, that's really hot.
Right.
And I think, if you're not used to using that kind of language,
Yeah.
it can feel a little awkward at first,
For sure.
but it's like anything else,
yeah.
the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with
The
it.
easier it becomes.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think, she really encourages like
Yeah.
getting comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I think is important to highlight in this like initial section
Yeah.
is the importance of your attitude.
Oh, yeah.
Like your enthusiasm and your genuine enjoyment are going to make this a positive experience
For
to
pretty
both of you.
Yeah, it's got to be fun.
It's got to be fun.
Yeah, if you're not into it, he's
Right.
going to know.
He's going to know.
Yeah, and it's not going to be as fun for him. So, like, if you're not feeling it, maybe it's not the right time.
Totally.
Like,
Or, maybe you need to like, figure out a way to get yourself in the mood.
totally.
But yeah, I think that's really important.
For sure.
All right, so now let's get into the actual techniques
Okay,
of giving a blowjob.
let's do it.
So she starts by talking about positions.
Okay.
And she mentions like, the classic kneeling position,
Right.
him sitting while you kneel,
Yeah.
him lying down with you on top,
Yeah.
and then 69ing, which she says we'll get to later.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and comfort is key here.
Right, you got to be comfy.
You got to get comfy.
Yeah.
And she gives a couple of like practical tips.
Sure.
Like if you have long hair, like tie it back.
Right, so it doesn't get like all up in his business.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want like hair in your mouth.
No.
And then also making sure that your lips are moistened beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay, so then she gets into what she calls the swallow technique.
Okay.
Okay, and this is not just about like taking him all in at once.
Right.
She stresses starting slowly and steadily.
Okay.
And so she suggests using one hand to hold the base.
Okay.
And if he's uncircumcised, gently pulling back the foreskin.
Okay.
And then she's like, explore with your tongue first.
Oh, okay.
Like lick the underside,
Right.
swirl it around the head.
Okay.
Really kind of like tease and heighten that sensitivity.
Right.
And then when you do go to take him in your mouth,
Yeah.
she says, keep your jaw relaxed.
Okay.
You might even want to use your tongue to cover your bottom teeth
Let's see.
for comfort.
Yeah.
And then round and tighten your lips to create suction.
Okay, so it's, like really getting a good seal.
Yeah, she even compares it to like the sensation of vaginal sex.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she says that slurping sounds are okay.
Okay.
Like a lot of guys actually find that pleasurable.
Okay, so don't be afraid to make some noise.
Don't be afraid to make some noise.
Gotcha.
Um, and then she talks about like, the initial movement should be slow and back and forth,
Okay.
and then you can gradually increase the pace.
Okay.
Um, and again, she emphasizes the tongue,
Yeah.
like swirling it around the head,
Uh,
curling it against the shaft,
Wait.
and she specifically mentions the frenulum,
Okay.
which is that little ridge
Yeah.
on the underside of the
I
head.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's like, gently flicking that
Yeah.
can be really pleasurable.
Okay, cool.
So yeah,
So the tongue is like a
okay.
star player here.
It's not just about the mouth.
Right.
It's about the tongue.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now, even though it's called oral sex,
Yeah.
she emphasizes that your hands should definitely be involved.
Okay.
Like she describes them as an extension of your mouth.
I see.
So the hand that's holding the base,
Uh-huh.
which she calls the stabilizer hand.
Okay.
That's really important.
Okay.
So when your mouth moves away,
Yeah.
that hand is stroking towards the tip.
Okay.
When your mouth returns, it strokes back towards the base.
Okay, so it's like a constant.
Yeah, you're maintaining that like consistent pressure and tightness.
Right, so there's like no downtime.
There's no downtime.
Gotcha.
And then the other hand isn't just like sitting there.
Right.
She's like, use that to explore other erogenous zones.
Oh, okay.
Like the inner thighs.
Okay.
You can stroke them, massage them, squeeze them.
Yeah.
The abs,
Mm-hmm.
the hips,
Okay.
even like, his butt,
Okay.
like grabbing his butt and like pulling him deeper into your mouth.
Gotcha.
And then she talks about the testicles.
Okay.
And she's very careful to say like, be gentle
Okay.
and ask for consent.
Oh, yeah. That's important.
Yeah, because some guys are very sensitive down there
Right.
and they might not enjoy direct touch.
Gotcha.
But for those who do,
Yeah.
she suggests like gentle stroking, squeeze massaging.
Yeah.
And even like oral stimulation,
Oh, wow.
like licking and gently sucking.
Okay.
And again, she emphasizes like, get his consent before you do any of that.
For sure.
And then she talks about like, if you really want to like amp up the experience,
Yeah.
like increase the heat.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, she suggests having him watch you
Oh, okay.
and you pleasuring yourself
At the same time.
at the same time.
Okay.
So this could be like, nipple play,
Yeah.
touching yourself between your legs,
Hmm.
moaning, really kind of like engaging all those senses and creating that like shared sense of arousal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this naturally leads us to like the climax,
Okay.
what she calls the big finish.
The big finish. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
And she emphasizes that like, a satisfying orgasm is like a crucial part of this experience.
Right.
And she suggests like open communication here.
Okay.
Like ask him to give you a signal when he feels like he's about to come
Right.
so that you're prepared.
Yeah. So you don't get caught off guard.
Exactly.
Right.
And then once he starts to come, she's like, keep going.
Okay.
Don't stop.
Okay.
Like maintain that oral and manual stimulation
During orgasm.
during orgasm,
Okay.
because that can really intensify his pleasure.
Gotcha.
And then she talks about the big question,
Oh, boy.
swallow or not to swallow.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the big one.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
And she's pretty clear that she advocates for swallowing.
Okay.
And her reasoning is that like,
Yeah.
some guys might feel rejected.
Yeah.
If you immediately spit out their semen,
Right.
and it's like, you're going to taste it regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like,
You might as well just like
you might as well just go for it.
commit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she even suggests like, encouraging him to drink more water and eat a healthy diet
Right.
might improve the taste.
Right.
Interesting.
But she acknowledges that like some women are hesitant.
For sure.
And that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
And so for those who are like fluid shy,
Yeah.
she offers some alternatives
Okay.
for the finish.
Like what?
So she talks about, using your hand to bring him to completion.
Right.
Like maintaining that oral pace
Mhm.
while you're using your hand.
Gotcha.
And then she gets into what she calls like dirty girl secrets.
Dirty girl secrets. Okay. I like this.
Yeah. Well,
What are they?
so this is finishing on the breasts or face
Okay.
for visual stimulation.
Okay.
And she's very careful to frame this as a choice.
Yeah.
Like it's not about submission.
Yeah.
It's about like
Shared pleasure?
Sort of pleasure and like visual excitement.
Gotcha.
And so for like finishing on the face,
Yeah.
she suggests closing your eyes
Okay.
and then like slowly licking your lips afterwards.
I see.
And then for finishing on the breast, she's like, lift them up.
Read some cleavage.
Yeah.
And then like gently rub the semen around.
Yeah.
Especially on the nipples.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So moving on to a technique that's often talked about, deep throating.
The elusive deep throat.
Yeah. So she acknowledges that it's a popular topic.
Right.
But she immediately reassures listeners that it's not necessary
Okay.
for a good blowjob.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I think some people think it's like a requirement.
Yeah, and it's not.
Okay.
So she defines deep throating as taking the entire penis into your mouth
Okay.
until the tip reaches your throat.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Okay.
And then she gives a step-by-step guide.
Okay.
And she really focuses on like relaxing your throat
Yeah, okay.
using a swallowing motion to help it go down.
Okay.
Breathing through your nose to avoid gagging.
Yeah.
And then holding still with just like slight back and forth movements.
Yeah.
And she also suggests that like, the most effective positions for deep throating
Yeah.
are ones that keep your neck as straight as possible.
Oh, okay.
So kneeling or lying on your back with your head tilted back.
So basically like giving your throat as much like open space as possible.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then she even addresses the gag reflex.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And she suggests like a gradual approach.
Okay.
Like using popsicles or lollipops
Oh, interesting.
to like gently and progressively push back your gag point.
So like train yourself.
Yeah, train yourself.
Be able to take more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like a desensitization thing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And then she finishes off by giving us some ideas for spicing things up.
Oh, yeah.
Like.
Always good to have some variety and excitement.
Right.
So she suggests incorporating flavors.
Oh, okay.
Like flavored lube, whipped cream, even chocolate sauce.
Wow. A dessert.
Yeah. And then she also talks about like playing with temperature and sensation.
Okay.
So like using an ice cube in your mouth.
Oh.
Or like warming your mouth with a hot beverage.
Okay.
Before you take him in.
I see.
She even mentions humming.
Humming?
Yeah.
Okay.
While he's in your mouth.
Okay.
Which can create like interesting vibrations.
Interesting. Okay.
And then she also cautiously suggests the gentle use of teeth.
Oh, with a warning.
With a big warning.
Keep them away from the head.
Keep them away from the head.
Yeah.
And then some other suggestions.
Yeah.
Maintaining eye contact.
Oh, yeah.
During oral sex.
Yeah.
Engaging in mutual masturbation.
Okay.
Alongside it.
Yeah.
And then stimulating the perineum.
The perineum.
Yeah, which is that area between the testicles and the anus.
Right.
With like a firm circular massage.
Okay.
Especially as he's approaching orgasm.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, she talks about 69ing.
Oh.
Which is simultaneous oral sex.
Yeah.
And she describes the classic position as the man lying down.
Okay.
With the woman on top facing his feet.
Right. The classic.
The classic.
It's fine.
And she acknowledges that it can be a little distracting.
Yeah.
Trying to like focus on both giving and receiving.
Right.
At the same time.
Yeah.
But it can be a lot of fun.
For sure.
So yeah.
Okay, so like the main takeaways from this book really come down to confidence and enjoying yourself. Like that seems to be like the through line.
Or through line.
Through all of this.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good message.
Yeah.
Because, if you're not confident and you're not enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good for anybody.
It's not going to be a good experience.
No.
Yeah.
So I think that's like a really important thing to remember.
Yeah. And we've covered like, all these techniques.
We covered a lot.
From initial arousal to oral stimulation, incorporating your hands, achieving orgasm.
Yeah, we covered it all.
Yeah. So like.
Jenna's got you covered.
She does.
Yeah.
I think that, anybody listening can take something from this.
Yeah. And the best approach is always going to be one that feels comfortable for you.
Right.
And pleasurable for your partner.
Yeah.
And, she really encourages you to explore these insights and techniques and adapt them to what works best for you.
Right. It's not like a one size fits all.
It's not a one size fits all.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And open communication is key.
Oh, yeah.
Like talk to your partner.
Yeah.
Figure out what they like.
Right.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah. It's all about like discovering what works.
Right. And having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And having fun.
So for a final thought, I thought it'd be interesting to consider like how this act of like really focusing on your partner's pleasure
Yeah.
in this way,
Mm-hmm.
like really immersing yourself in their sensations, like how that can impact
Yeah.
the overall intimacy and connection you share.
That's interesting.
Like
Like,
what new dimensions of understanding and closeness could emerge
yeah,
when you prioritize your partner's experience?
I love that.
It's something to think about.
It is something to think about.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to leave it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us
Absolutely.
on this deep dive into the world of blowjobs.
Yeah. Next time we'll pick another topic and dive deep.
Exactly. We'll see you then.
See ya.
Bye.